Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh Everything, and welcome back to another episode of the Appreciating Yu-Gi-Oh podcast, the podcast where we do a deep dive into the many different types of Yu-Gi-Oh anime or manga content. I, of course, co-host this podcast with Rarity Fangirl. We're going to bring Rarity on in a minute. And we have a special guest for this one, legendary Duels. If you guys have been around my channel for a while, I'm sure you've heard him many times. He's been a good friend to me and a good friend of the channel's for a very long time. And in this episode, we are going to be talking about the Yu-Gi-Oh Zexal anime. So we have broken this down into topics. I will have the timestamps down below in case you maybe want to skip around or if one of these is maybe more interesting for you. But we're going to give our history with Zexal and our overall thoughts first. Then we are going to rank the arcs. We will do an animation segment where we talk about the animation, a segment where we talk about the English dub. We're going to give our top 3 favorite characters, and we are going to give a couple of our favorite duels and talk about how Zexal has gotten a lot of unnecessary hate, unnecessary bashing, and we'll go over maybe some experiences we've had with that and why that might be the case, but also why that has kind of gone away in recent years, at least in my opinion. But, you know, we'll talk about that. And before we dive into it, I want to bring on my co-host for this podcast, Rarity Fangirl. Rarity, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to talk about Zexal. It's one of those Yu-Gi-Oh shows that's very interesting to me in my own perspective. I'm not going to get into it until we talk about our history with it. But it's very unique, and it was the first Yu-Gi-Oh that I remember. I think that I watched it not partially on TV. I watched the dub first. I think what happened was I watched Zexal 1 on TV, and then years later, I finished it by rewatching the entire show in Japanese. So it's really interesting of my experience with this one. I don't know why I didn't finish it originally. I think it's maybe just wasn't where I was airing, or I moved on to other things before I came back to Yu-Gi-Oh! With Arc 5. Not really sure. So my experience with it is really interesting. But yeah, so I'm really excited to talk about it, and we are, of course, happy to have Legendary Duels back on the podcast. As JC, you are a very big Zexal fan, so would you mind coming on and telling us a little bit about that? You can go first, talking about your history and overall thoughts about Zexal.
Oh, okay, I'm starting off. Okay. All right, well, hello, guys. I'm Legendary. Thank you guys again for just having me on the channel again on talking about Zexal. I was there for the GX, so I'm happy to be part of Zexal. So thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to come back and talk about my actual favorite Yu-Gi-Oh series, which is Yu-Gi-Oh Zexal. So I'm excited to get into that. Okay, so my history with Zexal. Zexal is very personal to me. I really love the show. Obviously, it's my #1 favorite Yu-Gi-Oh show for a lot of reasons. I think it's definitely the most well-written show. I love all the characters. I love the music. I love a lot of the duels, a lot of the story, the emotions. I love a lot about it. But yeah, so I remember watching Zexal when it first came out. I started watching it subbed. I pretty much stopped watching dubbed after GX. I watched a little bit of 5D's dubbed, but I just kept watching subbed after, GX Season 4 and then all of 5D's, and I just kept going from there. So my entire experience of Zexal is 100% with the sub version of Zexal, and I love it. But yeah, at first it was kind of weird getting used to Zexal. I would say just the character designs and the art style was kind of weird for me at first, so it took me not that super long to get into it, but it looked a little weird. You get used to it after a while, and then eventually, I start to love how the characters look and stuff like that, and especially when it's drawn really well. But yeah, so Zexal is very personal to me. Like I said, I just love this. I just love the story. It's very much of in a lot of ways, a remake of the original DM. Has a lot of similar beats, but just done a lot better, a lot more refined. It pretty much covers and makes up for everything that was lacking for DM for me. And maybe I could get into that. I don't know if that's now or later, whenever you want me to get into that. But it has a lot of the same similar beats, right? You got Yuma, you got Astral, who's the spirit. Astro has to get his memories back, just like Tem has to get his memories back. There's all, people are trying to collect the Millennium items and the Egyptian gods, and here they're trying to collect the numbers and trying to destroy each other, right? Very similar beats to DM, but it was just better executed. There was a lot more characters that had involvement. Even the side characters have some more involvement. It had fantastic villains. Just an incredible soundtrack. Zexal is probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh soundtrack of all time. It has so much variety, and it's just incredible. And the animation, obviously very consistent, very smooth for the most part. And when it hits hard, it hits hard. And the duels are just, impactful. Some of them can get repetitive, with how Yuma wins. That's a criticism, which I agree with. But it doesn't really bother me all that much, to be honest. But yeah, that's just my overall thoughts of Zexal. We'll get more into detail, I guess, with characters and stuff as we go along and stuff like that. So I don't know if you have a more specific question about Zexal that you want me to answer right now.
Yeah, no, that's great, JC. Yeah, just kind of general thoughts. For me, Zexal has always been that show that like kind of grew on me, and I feel like it's one of those shows that I feel like grew on a lot of people. I mean, my perspective with it is a little weird because I was watching it kind of as it was airing. I was paying attention to it, and back then, the subs were coming out very delayed, and like the subs I feel like were it's kind of weird, and this is like getting into the deep lore, but the subs were being done by people who didn't necessarily really seem to be enjoying Zexal. That's kind of been the consensus, and the subs were like littered with like curse words and vulgarity, and that was kind of something that I found out later was kind of done on purpose just to make it like as ridiculous as possible. So my initial experience with Zexal was a little weird. I remember when it was revealed, I was actually in favor of the younger protagonist, the more colorful characters, because I felt like, it was something new. And after we had 3 iterations, closer to about, 11, 12 years of the original Yu-Gi-Oh trilogy, I was always someone who wanted something a little new. It's why I've kind of wanted a girl lead for so long. So when we first saw Yuma, I was actually pretty excited for it. I was excited to see what like a different type of protagonist with a different type of energy was going to bring to the equation when it came to a Yu-Gi-Oh anime. And, I remember thinking that the animation was just so high quality, blew me away. It was one of those shows that it was hard for me to like really get into as it was airing because again, the sub releases were so kind of inconsistent. But once I was able to sit down and like watch large chunks of Zexal, which I actually finished Zexal, during like the standard arc of Arc 5, I kind of went back and finished it. I had dropped it temporarily only because like, I was waiting a while and there were other things that were coming out that I was interested in. And, this is when I was going away to college. So life was very much pulling me in like 20 different directions. And I kind of took a break from weekly Yu-Gi-Oh just because, there wasn't really a consistent, accessible way to watch, which by the way, outside of Reigns, that really hasn't changed. That really hasn't changed much in the last, decade
Zexal
or so.
Doesn't even have an official sub still.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, still, which is ridiculous. But, when I went back and I watched the end of Zexal, I was like, I got to watch this in one go. And so I was watching Zexal while I was watching Arc 5 live. This is right before I started making Yu-Gi-Oh content, and I enjoyed Zexal a lot. I really, really did. And then I gave it a third rewatch when Vrains was going on, and that was the rewatch where I was like, man, this is genuinely like one of the strongest Yu-Gi-Oh shows. The story, the characters, the consistent, beautiful animation, the villain groups, the plot twists, the foreshadowing moments. I think Zexal is a really, really, really enjoyable Yu-Gi-Oh show. And I think most people that really hate on Yu-Gi-Oh Zexal are the people that never really watched Yu-Gi-Oh Zexal in full. Maybe they saw the first few episodes. Maybe they watched the English dub. But the people who say it's, an awful show, I think they are just speaking from a perspective of it doesn't look like the first 3, and that's why it's an awful show, which is kind of an unfair thing to do. But it's the internet, so you just get used to it after a while. But yeah, no, overall thoughts on Zexal. Listen, I ranked all my shows recently. I think it's the second best Yu-Gi-Oh show. It's my second favorite Yu-Gi-Oh show behind 5Ds. So yeah, I'm very high on Yu-Gi-Oh Zexal. I think along with 5Ds, it's one of the only like A-tier Yu-Gi-Oh shows overall. But Rarity, you know, I'm happy we have you on for this because I know Zexal did not resonate with you nearly as much as it did with me and JC. So I'm very interested to hear kind of your thoughts, your history with Zexal, and of course your overall thoughts on the show.
Yeah, so I'm going to first start off by saying I think of Zexal from an objective standpoint is fantastic. I think from an objective consistency level, it is the strongest of the Gallup shows by far. It has a really strong story, really great characters, and really, really strong animation, which is why I asked to put the animation in the segment. I think what particularly for me is whenever I've watched Zale, I've just been like, this is objectively so good. Why am I not as hardcore into this as everyone else I know who really loves Zale? And over the years, I've never been able to find an answer to that question. It's so weird to me. Now, there is stuff about Zale that I really, really, really love. We'll talk about that mainly in the character section. I have some of the characters I really, really like. I just don't know. Maybe it's because it came out in an awkward period in my personal life. As I said, it was the first show after 5Ds I watched live. I watched Zexal 1 in the English dub, and then I switched to the sub sometime after Arc 5 ended and watched it all. Maybe I was still in my I miss Arc 5 days, maybe. I rewatched some of it for this video, so I have some recent perspective, but it's one of those things where it's like, I really think this is a good show, but it's not like my show. Does that make sense? It's like not my show, but I think it's good. It's just not like my like fangirl level, like y'all, when we get to Arc 5 and Go Rush, you won't see the difference in my analysis levels when we get to those two in particular. But I still think it's really, really, really strong. And I think it has some really great messages as well. I think it has one of the strongest messages in Yu-Gi-Oh! That relates to a lot of people. And I think that's really because of the strong character writing. But yeah, I also think we'll talk about the unnecessary hate. I think it does not deserve the unnecessary hate. If you think Zale is bad, you maybe have just watched the English dub only, as Dylan said, or you just haven't given the full show a chance. I also think my perspective is interesting because Zale is split up right between Zale 1 and Zale 2. Most people, I don't know if you two agree. Actually, I guess I could ask this now because I didn't have this as a topic. I probably should have. For you two, you guys go first. Do you prefer Zale 1 or Zale 2?
I definitely, well, maybe not definitely, but I prefer Zale 2. I actually think it is closer than a lot of people say. I mean, I've seen a lot of people say, oh, Zale 1 is awful and Zale 2 is amazing. I obviously don't agree with that. I think Zale 2 is better. It's got more like plot twists. Vector is phenomenal. The duels are just more magnificent. But I think Zale 1 is still very enjoyable with, you know, the early Kaito and Haruto stuff, the Arclight family, which is a fantastic villainary group. I think Zexal 1 is still very enjoyable, but I would give the slight edge to Zexal 2.
Mm-hmm. JC, what about you?
I'm gonna be honest. I love the whole show so much, so it's hard for me to really pick one over the other. There's so many.
That's fair.
I honestly just love the whole show. I think the reason why people hate Zale 1 is mainly because they hate the first, before Kaito showed up, right? And they hate the Numbers Club. That's what I hear the most. And it's like such an unimportant like part of, like, you don't, why does that even matter? Like, it's like, it doesn't, but I feel like that's why they hate it the most. But the moment Kaito gets introduced and then the Tron, the Arclight brothers, and then, you know, all that stuff, is like, all that stuff is fantastic. So like, I don't really know what the problem is. I do think probably maybe the second half is stronger, even more well written. Not that the first one isn't. I just think it's all solid. I just think from the beginning to end of the story, it's great. Even the Numbers Club, like, yeah, it might not be the most exciting thing, but it just shows Yuma and just who he is and his personality and how infectious who he is towards everyone, and it just brings everyone kind of together, similar to how Judai kind of was, where like he has this infectious personality, but even more so, like he can be overbearing at times, but at the same time, like he just you just end up like loving him, and he cares for you, and you feel that, and that has such a strong impact. But we'll get into Yuma later and why I love him. But anyway, yeah, that's just a small little dose. But yeah, I think all of it is
for
great.
your top 3. I spoil it. All right,
Spoilers, yeah.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. For me, I actually prefer Zale 1. And I think a lot of that is due to my favorite characters in the show. I think that's part of why. And I really liked the personal struggles that our main for Yuma, Astral, Kaito, and Shark went through. I think it's interesting because I think Kaito has a stronger story in Zale 1, while Shark has a stronger story in Zale 2. So it really, I guess for me, it's kind of like, who do I like better? Well, you'll see that in the top list. I think that's just perhaps where my emotional investment was. Plus, I love Tron. I love Tron as a villain. I think Tron is great. So I think the kind of making like the villains being a lot more personal to each person individually with their history, because of course Tron has that connection to Yuma's father. We connect 4 right with Shark. We connected all with 5 and Kaito. I think like because the fact that all the conflicts are personally related to everyone on a deep personal level, maybe for me that's why that just resonates a little more. Plus I like seeing the antics and Astral's character development, but again, we'll get more into that later. But yeah, so my perspective on Zale is very probably weird or maybe unique to most people, but it is a wonderful show like all the Yu-Gi-Ohs are. And if you are a big fan of Zale like these two guys right here, I do not blame you. I just really cannot figure out why I just don't fangirl over it as much as the others, but it's still really, really good. Very, very strong. And
well, Rarity,
I
mean, yeah, I would like for you, because you have a very, unique perspective, and I've definitely seen the take before. It's not like it's a crazy take that, you like the first half of Zale more than the second half. Would love to know your ranking of the 5 arcs. And again, in order, for those listening that maybe need a refresher, we have the Numbers Hunt, we have the World Duel Carnival, we have the Baryon Invasion, the Mytharian Numbers War, and then the Baryon Onslaught arc. Those are the 5 major arcs of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal.
Okay, so I'm going to go from bottom to top.
Yep.
So number 5 is the Baryon Invasion, which is the kickoff of Zale 2. While there is some interesting things going on, I think it very much became a Monster of the Week, which there's nothing wrong with Monster of the Week. I think that formula works. Kind of probably the most Monster of the Week Yu-Gi-Oh part, aside from maybe the Rush shows a little bit with 7s. I guess not really a Monster of the Week, but you know what I mean. Basically, episode formula, someone gets possessed by the Baryons, and they duel them, rank up, things like that. And there's stuff going on in the background. Like, of course, Rio gets introduced. I think Rio's a great character. But I just don't think it has as much pizzazz as the rest. I think things start really getting heated up when Mizael gets introduced. I think that's where it like turns up a little bit there. Of course, so that was a really, really big part. I think does Vector show up in that arc, or does Vector's reveal in the Mytharian Numbers? I don't...
No, that arc concludes with the Vector reveal.
Yeah. So that's really strong. That's good. I always get those two parts confused. Again, not as hardcore of a Zale fan, that's why I had to make sure I asked these guys. But yeah, the Vector reveal makes that arc really, really strong, but I don't think the other stuff saves it, despite from that great reveal. Number 4 is, funny enough, I would say the Mytharian Numbers. So the Mytharian Numbers, right, was all about them gathering the Mytharian numbers, which, of course, had a connection to all of the Baryons. I really, really liked this one. I'm not saying, again, it's, like, bad. I think the reason I like the other 3 more is I think they had a lot more emotional moments. This was kind of the lore building. I liked that they were traveling around in the ship for a while. I guess I was just kind of waiting for the bigger stuff to come, because that arc is basically almost all foreshadowing, right, and build up towards the Baryon Onslaught, which it makes sense. It's the arc before the finale, right? That makes perfect sense. And it's very good build up. I just don't think it has as many moments for me personally. So that's why I probably would put that there. You could probably interchange it, honestly, I think, with Baryon Invasion for me, but just edges out just slightly a little bit with the cool lore drops of connecting all the Baryons and stuff. I remember the Shark getting the flashback memory thing when he was dueling Abyss and the thing with Rio and all that stuff. I remember that blew me away. I was like, wait, what? Hold. Because it very much reminded me, as JC was saying during the intro, how Zale has a lot of elements of DM. The whole reincarnation, historical time period stuff, I think that's awesome. And you see that with Shark, and you were like, why is Shark in here? And then you start putting the pieces together. Is he a Baryon? Right? I was like, is he a Baryon? And you start building those puzzle pieces together. It's really neat. And then for me, I would say it's the numbers hunt, and mainly I would say it's because of Kaito. Kaito, I like the stuff in the beginning too. I think it again establishes the world and the characters really well, but man, Kaito is a screen stealer. His introduction, I don't know if you two agree with me, is probably the best rival introduction in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is when Kaito just, breaks through the ceiling, right? And he whistles, and he timidly defeats that duelist. Like, look, he's not my favorite rival. He's in probably my top 5. He's in my top 5 for sure. And I like other characters more than him, but his intro was so cool. And he enlisted fear into Astral, which was amazing. I'll talk more about that during the duel section too. But Kaito really carries, but it's also just nice to see Yuma grow throughout that arc. Of course, he was feeling really down when we got to go to the duel shrine with Grandpa. That was really cool. That little arc was great for Yuma's development. And how he almost lost Astral, right? It's almost like a moment I wish that Yusaku had with Eye and Vrains a little bit, where like basically if Kaito didn't leave that duel right, Astral would have been gone. And he has to deal with that. And I think Yuma's character growth that you see throughout that arc is really nice. And of course, it accumulates with the duel, and of course, the reveal of the Super Saiyan Zale form, which is awesome. I love the Super Saiyan thing. I think it's cool. So that was really awesome. And then number 2, this is probably going to shock you guys, maybe not, is the Barry and Onslaught. Yes, I like the World of Carnival more. Barry and Onslaught is a back-to-back-to-back intensity. This arc does not let up for a second. There is not much comic relief at all. It is basically drama, 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 drama. Characters are dying left and right to the point where they challenge the game right every episode when a character died. Like, that level, it's so back-to-back-to-back. I think maybe the reason, like, it's not number 1 is it's a little too much on the drama. Obviously, it's well-deserved. I think would have liked a little bit of levity, but how do you do that when, like, Kaito dies on the moon? Shark was forced to watch his sister and his one of his closest Baryon confidants get defeated and was trolled by Vector. How do you do that? All that stuff. The Shark and Yuma duel. Oh my gosh, that is some tear flow. And then of course the ceremonial duel at the end. And then the crazy Dawn 1000 duel. Oh my gosh, so much attack points. Crazy. It's just crazy back to back to back. But I do really like how it utilizes the side characters really, really well. I think it made great use of all of them in some way, which I really, really appreciated. Which is what I really like, for example, that the Zark duel did in Arc 5. While I don't think it was executed as well, I like it when, during these big final bads in Yu-Gi-Oh!, the supporting characters who are not the main protagonist or rival get to do something substantial. I think that's what I've always liked it. Because, it enforces Yu-Gi-Oh's power friendship thing. And considering Yuma very much is the type of character, right, he makes friends with whoever he duels. It kind of leads to the story of Yuma connecting with all these people are now coming back to help him in the end. Which I really, really like. And the emotional finale, of course, really, really strong. And then for me, the World Duel Carnival. I think this is a great tournament arc. I really like the structure of it. I think that, of course, it's very much a hint of Duelist Kingdom, right? You collect heart pieces instead of star pieces, But the emotional storytelling interweaved throughout this arc, everything is connected. When you realize Tron is, and then of course Vector, of course pulling by Dr. Faker, right? All these threads are interconnected, all this like personal character drama. You have Kaito and his brother, which I absolutely love that. You have Shark wanting revenge for his sister of his stuff of Quattro or 4. Then you have Yuma basically making friends with 3, and then that whole duel we had to forget Astral and learning more about his father, that he's in Astral World, and how Tron betrayed his father and Dr. Faker. It's like all the personal drama stuff was really, really strong. And I also, again, liked how the supporting characters like Droid, and I think I forget his Japanese name, but Nistro, the two of them, the Heartland duo, I liked how they were used. I liked the support that Katori had in that arc. I liked that they dueled on a roller coaster. I think that was really unique, and how Yuma just kept running into traps, and that he just had low life points. Really, really creative with the duel coaster. And the duels, the duel sphere, really cool. Shark getting possessed. You have Kaito's whole photon thing with Haruto giving his power. Really good emotional moments for me. And I think that's why I really resonated with it. I guess it's also the part of Zale I'm most nostalgic for. So that's probably why for me it's number 1. But I think if you like the Baryon Onslaught better, objectively so, I get why. I think for me, I just like the balance a little bit more. But still, really, really strong.
Yeah, no, love that. Yeah, JC, do you want to give your top 5 next?
Sure, I guess. I had never really thought about my top 5, but I guess hearing Rarity go through hers made me really think about it more. Okay,
well, if you want me to do mine and to give you a little bit more time, I'm totally fine with that. Totally up to you.
I could just do it. I mean, I had enough time. I mean,
perfect. You got it.
It's going to be very similar to hers, actually. I think. I would say number 5 would probably be, yeah, like it's interchangeable, right? The Barian Invasion and Noetherian Numbers War, like it was interchangeable for you. It could be interchangeable for me as well. Like it could. I kind of like both almost equally. Maybe I like the introduction. I think I might like the introduction of the Barian Invasion a little bit more. So maybe Noetherian Numbers would be last, then Barian Invasion. When they start getting introduced to the Barians, to Alito and Garag and everyone. Then would be. Yeah, then I guess it would have to be the Numbers Hunt. Even before that, I really love the beginning of Zale, like when it first starts, because it gets us introduced to Yuma as a character and Astral, obviously, and the relationship between. I really love the relationship between Yuma and Shark, and how that grows, and how Yuma's such a good friend to him and is willing to. Not believe all the rumors that he hears about Shark, about him being a cheater, because he dueled him personally, and despite his some of his negative qualities, he knows he's not a cheater. Like, he believes that he's not, and that had such an impact for Shark that he believed in his integrity, in Shark's integrity as a duelist and stuff like that. And just seeing how far Yuma would go for him, like, impacted Shark so much that Shark would do anything to protect Yuma. And that all that build up with Yuma and Shark is so perfect, because it just builds up to the very finale, their final duel, and how all that plays out is so sad and tragic that it has to play out that way. It set the foundation for the end of the show, which is good. So that's why I hold it to such high regard. And obviously the whole Kaito story with his brother and just all that stuff was just really strong. But I feel like the Yuma and Shark, the foundation being set there, was so important, which is why I have it number 3, because it sets up the finale of the whole story so perfectly. Like, it's full circle all around, really sad, really tragic, and beautiful at the same time. But yeah, and then it would have to be the World Duel Carnival, right? And then it would be obviously the Barian Onslaught arc. That's the best arc in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, it just has to be. Like, it's just incredible. Just everything you mentioned, Rarity, about it is what makes it incredible. Objectively, you already know that. And from an emotional state, like, it kept me engaged the whole time. Like, I was fine that it didn't have a lot of slice of life comedy, because, like, Zale has so much of that throughout the whole show. This is the finale. This is the war. This is the end. So I'm fine with like, the nonstop dying and this and that, because this is it. This is the end. Like, this is where it all falls down. Like, we're gonna find out who's gonna win or lose this war. And war is not fun and games. So it makes perfect sense to end it in, like, the strongest note possible. And it's sad too, because we see all the lightheartedness of Yuma throughout the show, and him kind of breaking down and this and that, and having to see everyone kill each other over this war, and how that breaks him, and then how he's still trying to be a beacon of light and love to everyone else around him, even in this war. It's like, it's beautiful. Like, it's so good. And the duels are incredible. Yuma versus Nash at the very end, beautiful duel. Kaito versus Misael, beautiful duel. Just so many incredible duels. The ceremonial duel as well. It was just such a perfect finale. It really was. Like, I can't words cannot describe how perfect that finale was. It was incredible. So yeah, it's gonna be number 1. So that would be my list of the top 5.
Yeah.
Very
No,
fair.
love it. Yeah, so I'll do my list real quick. And my list is going to be slightly different. I mean, the biggest difference for me between your guys is actually my bottom arc is the Numbers Hunt arc, which is, of course, the first arc. I believe you both had it at 3. Yeah, listen, I definitely echo the same feelings about Kaito and about how good he was and his character was during the arc. I'll even also say I love the Roku stuff. I mean, the Roku stuff led to so much for me and this channel personally, whether it was the theory video that he is like Yugimoto or like a long lost relative of Yugimoto, or of course the statue monsters and trying to figure that out with the timeline, there not being any synchro monsters, but Judai's monsters being there, was very, very interesting. So I love that from a like entire world building perspective. But outside of that, I really am not a big fan of the Numbers Hunt arc. I think that it just takes a while to get going. I think the beginning of Zexal is a little bit slow. And yeah, so for me, that has always been, I think, the weakest arc, and it's at the bottom for me. Fourth is going to be Mytharian Numbers. I liked that we got, more detail on the Baryons. I liked that we were kind of figuring out the Baryons a little bit more. And this by no means is a bad arc, but I do feel like this was kind of a calm before the storm. It was right after the insane reveal of Vector. It was right after the Dark Zexal moment, which is one of my favorite moments in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! At the end of the Baryon Invasion arc. So I always felt like Mytharian Numbers is a little bit of that calm before the storm and our team trying to figure out the fallout from, the duel in Sargosa, which was just so good. And yeah, I like it, but I prefer the Baryon Invasion. Not by much. I'm kind of with you guys where they're pretty interchangeable, but I definitely prefer the Baryon Invasion because I felt the reveal and the conclusion of that arc, which of course was the formal Vector reveal, and then the Dark Zexal moment is one of the best moments in Zexal. It's one of the best moments in the franchise for me, and I think everything leading up to that moment was really, really enjoyable. So those arcs are close, but I'll give Baryon Invasion a little bit of an edge. Number 2 for me is going to be the World Duel Carnival. It's a really, really good arc. And when people say that the first part of Zexal is awful, I always have to do a double take because I'm like, did you watch the World Duel Carnival? It's one of the best tournaments in, I think, the entire franchise. I think the uniqueness of it with the roller coaster, is so iconic. And then, as Rarity mentioned earlier, all of the Arclight family having their own foils, with Shark being tied to 4 and something that happened obviously with his sister in a previous tournament. I'm not going to get all into it, but the backstory there was really, really good. And you know what? A little bit of another note that I loved is that they really threw us all off. I remember watching this live. I remember reading forum posts. And when we got the opening that, Yuma and Kaito were fighting in the duel sphere, we were like, all right, this is going to be the finals. And then Kaito loses to freaking Tron, and everybody was like, what the hell? And then Yuma ended up dueling Tron. So the opening doing a really good juke there to fake us all out, which, sure, it's happened in Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime before, but I don't know if it's ever happened to that degree where it's faked out a finals matchup. Really, really, really cool. And yeah, the duels were great. Tron was a great villain. 4 was a great villain. The Arclight family was great. Love the World Duel Carnival. It would only take a really magical arc to dethrone the World Duel Carnival at the top of the list. And magic is a word that you can use to describe the Baryon Onslaught arc. To me,
perfection.
It is perfection. I mean, there's only like 3 S-tier arcs to me in Yu-Gi-Oh! This is one of them, along with Dark Signers and like Battle City. But when I say Battle City, I kind of think of the manga more than I think of the anime, because obviously, the anime has the split with the Noah's Virtual World. But man, Baryon Onslaught arc is so good. The emotion, the drama, we talk about the Arclight family being foils to a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cast. Well, how about the Baryons being foils? The Vector and Shark rivalry, the Misael and Kaito rivalry. There was so much. This is also the arc where it basically kicked off with the 4 and Shark rivalry coming to an end, right? It had its final conclusionary duel, which was a great rivalry throughout Zexal, where early on, Shark's the good guy in that, 4's the bad guy, and by the time we get to this arc, the roles have completely flipped due to the fate of, Shark and the destiny of Shark, if you will, to become Nash and become that final Baryon. Oh, the death scenes, the emotion, the attention to detail to change the ending of Challenge the Game, to pay tribute to all of the characters that fall in these episodes, and then culminating in a fantastic duel against Don Thousand, and then an even greater duel, Yuma versus Nash. What a freaking masterpiece that is. Yeah, Barry and Onslaught for me is one of, if not maybe the greatest arc in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! So yeah, it's number one for me. But yeah, really there's no, the numbers hunt for me is I've always viewed as kind of like an okay arc, but all the other arcs are good or better in Zexal, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was saying of like, from an objective standpoint, I think Zexal is really, really cohesive. Like, we always have those parts, I feel like, in almost every other Yu-Gi-Oh! Maybe not sevens to some people, where it's like, oh, this is like the part where it's not as cohesive, where you feel like they jumped the shark. I guess jumped the shark, shark, get it? Jump the shark.
Yeah.
They do that in Zale, but I feel like the transition between those felt very natural. Like, I feel like the transitions between Zale 1 and Zale 2's arcs felt really, really nice. And I can't always say that about the others. But I can understand why you guys like Barry and Onslaught. I guess for me, I'm just a little more biased because, again, I think Kaito's story is a little bit stronger in Zale 1. And you'll see, guys, I really like that guy. So I think that's probably like the only edge, I think, on that front.
Yeah.
But really, really strong. So I guess now we can talk about the animation real quick. So Zale is beautifully crafted. We know that Yu-Gi-Oh! Animation generally has its ups and downs. It's a weekly running anime. If you guys know anything about anime production, it's very, very rough out there. It's the point where most anime these days are doing seasonal. You guys know One Piece is going seasonal? One Piece? Like, when One Piece goes seasonal. Yeah, when One Piece goes seasonal, that's when you know the animation industry is changing, right? But despite that, Zale consistently looks good. I don't think there's maybe a handful of episodes that are off model. Zale consistently has very strong storyboarding, very strong character animation, very strong CG. I think the monster animation is great. And also really nice with the cuts. It has a very, very strong director that I think makes Zale's visuals look really, really, really strong. And I want to applaud the work of the animators who were able to keep it consistent for so long. And people will say, well, this one didn't have a movie or any other kind of thing. Because, of course, Zale wasn't in Bonds Beyond Time, or there wasn't a DSOD, right? Like, there was no they were just working on this. And yeah, that's true. Even with what JC was saying about the art style change, I think Zale's art style is like a natural evolution. We're getting more into the spiky hair, with the character designs. It's also interesting is I don't believe, Dylan, you might be able to correct me, I don't believe Takahashi Sensei had anything to do with Zexal's character design. I believe he did not. He's drawn Yuma, but I don't know if he ever designed him. I have no idea. But I believe he didn't.
My understanding was he had a part in helping design Yuma, but that was it. That was my understanding of his influence. But I'll try to look that up and confirm that.
Yeah, you could probably make a note of it on the screen when we talk about this. But thank you. As I was trying to figure that out. Maybe Galaxy Eye or some other lovely people in the animation side of the community can give us some info about that, because despite the departure, right, from the character design, I still think they look like Yu-Gi-Oh characters, and also even just the way that their eyes look, the way that cuts are drawn, it's like a natural evolution. And I like that Gallop and the character artist decided to go something a little bit new for this kind of next generation of Yu-Gi-Oh. This is the start of the second trilogy. You got to make it big. You got to make it look different. And I think they did that in a really, really strong way. I think one of my favorite sequences that I can think of visually is the Zale transformations. I've always thought they were stunning. Like the colors, the way that Yuma and Ash will turn into overlay units, and like the amazing designs, even though they keep getting more and more over the top as it goes on. And the way they also animated Astral, the way that he glows, I also really, really loved that. And how you see that get twisted with the dark Zexal moment that you see, which I know you really love. But yeah, Zale's animation is gorgeous to look at, and by far the most consistent. I think there's a reason a lot of the animation buffs in the Yu-Gi-Oh community held in such high regard, and the staff, for getting to keep this level of quality for a weekly show, I think deserves to be applauded. Like, my gosh. And I don't think Zale had any more major recap episodes. Am I wrong about that, Dylan? I don't remember there being many, if any at all. I don't remember.
I know. I think it had at least one. I believe episode 25, which was the bridge episode.
Yeah.
I think that's the only one that I can think of.
Yeah. So that means the production was most likely very healthy. Which, considering the recap mess that was Yu-Gi-Oh! Brains, I think it's very nice to say that Gallup had a good time doing this one, and thankfully we want a healthy production, which is why I've always said for Yu-Gi-Oh! 9, DM reboot, whatever we get next, I hope is seasonal just for the sake of the animators and their health. But I just wanted to applaud the Zale animators. Do you two have anything to say about the animation? Real quick?
The only thing I want to touch on before I throw it to JC is, Zexal was always the peak of Yu-Gi-Oh! Animation on a weekly quality basis. And there were a couple of people that come to mind. I mean, No Gilbo and Ebina were... Ebina, I believe, started, I think, later into Zexal. I don't know how much he actually did of Zexal, but I know No Gilbo was there from the very, very beginning. I believe he did one episode where he was the animation director for 5Ds, and then they just rolled with him. And he was a mainstay, not just for Zexal, but then for Arc 5 and Vrains as well. I don't know. I don't believe Ebina lasted long. I actually don't think Ebina lasted after Arc 5, but... every time I'm watching through DM right now, and every time you get a Kagami episode, the amount of detail and animation quality and drawing quality in those episodes is unbelievable, especially in Doma, where if it's not a Kagami episode, good luck, because it's not going to look very good more times than not. But yeah, Zexal just had a lot of peak Yu-Gi-Oh animators, and it really is a treat to watch on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. JC, do you have anything to say about the animation?
It's gorgeous. It's awesome. Sorry. No, I love it. It's beautiful. I guess what comes to mind when I'm thinking about the animation, aside from a lot of the really cool shots, when they go Zale, there's a lot of really incredible shots. Vector has a lot of really amazing face shots. Tron, the Arc-like, but everyone, there's just such incredible shots all throughout. I would say that for me, I wanted to mention some of the, I guess, what would you call it? Some of the environments. So like that really stood out to me, where I love the way the Barian world actually looks. It actually looks very beautiful. The color for it, the kind of purplish red, whatever color, and then with all the crystals, I think it looks beautiful. It's empty and barren. Obviously, It's only just them on there, but like it looks really beautiful. Astral World looks gorgeous. My favorite color is blue, so it just looks stunning and beautiful. Even there's this one episode where I think number what is it, 96, the Dark Mist, whatever, when he was in season 2, when he was dueling Yuma, and he had the Barian power with him or whatever, in that field spell that they were doing, the Chaos Field, whatever it was, that looked really beautiful. It always draws my attention how that field looked when they dueled each other that time. And then also even Heartland City, right? Like even Heartland City looks very vibrant and beautiful. It looks very unique, there's very busy. There's a lot going on, right? It's all over the place, but like it's not just a generic city. It's like it's a very unique looking city. It stands out. It looks like a lot of fun. It's very vibrant, colorful, and it's just it fits what Zale is, and even the character designs of the characters in Zale, like it all fits together really well. But yeah, I think it just came out gorgeous. The monsters came out looking cool and sick, and it just looks gorgeous, man. They did a good job with Zale. They put their heart and soul into it, you can tell, and it paid off, I think.
Yeah. One quick thing about the environments. One of my favorite environments was I really love the design of Haruto's room, that it's a completely 360 view and you see the city that Haruto will not get to go out. And it's kind of just like this little, he's a little kid. I love that kid. Of course, him and Kaito are big brother, little brother. You guys know me in Yu-Gi-Oh! I love that stuff. But I also love the projections of what, like, the vision of his, like, I guess soul is, where he's in that cabin that he and Kaito presumably grew up in before Haruto had his disease. That little cabin with the falling, like, flowers. And I think Yuma gets to go there, too, a little bit. And it's really, really pretty. Even inside the key, the Emperor's key is gorgeous. like all the glowing stuff, like the glowy effects in Zale, it really helps sell the alien theme. And I think it even does the alien like vibe of way everything looks a little bit better than Go Rush, which is all about aliens in terms of aesthetic. But we were mostly stuck on Earth for most of that show, unfortunately. We didn't get to go a lot of places, unfortunately. But yeah, the animation is pretty. Yeah. I guess now we'll segue to the dub real quick. So, just to kind of mention it, the English dub, as I mentioned before, was my first exposure to Zale, and a lot of people don't like it. And I think a lot of the reason is for Yuma's voice, which, to be honest with you guys, I never found it annoying. It never bothered me. Maybe it's because I was younger, and it just didn't annoy me. Like, the censorship is obviously bad, and I think that a lot of the dramatic weight of a lot of the moments is taken out. I know there's been a lot of examples over the years. Like Quattro's death or Four's death was one of those big things. All the death scenes, of course, they had to censor. But I still think that there's some merit in the performances in that dub. I really love Kaito's voice actor. I love Astral. I also like Shark. It's also really funny, if you guys don't know, about the Bang Zoom dub that almost happened, right? I'm sure you guys have heard of that as big Zale fans, about the English dub we almost had. What was it? Lelouch's VA, and then like the guy who did Edric Elric was gonna be Shark or something. Like, we had freaking Lelouch's Yuma. Isn't that a crazy timeline to think of? Because that was when the 4Kids lawsuit was happening, right? Where there was the whole thing, and then 4Kids went bankrupt, and then Konami bought them. And Zale was the first dub that they did fully when they were under the Konami branch, which is really, really interesting. But I never really noticed a big difference for me, but I also understand why a lot of people don't like the dub for the censorship and everything. But I think it's fine. It's kind of what we expect from the other dubs, but I think some of the actors are also really, really good in it. Like, again, I don't think Yuma's actor is bad. I think he's fine. I think I get because it's so high pitched, but it is a very big departure from Yuma's Japanese seiyuu. Very big departure, because Yuma's Japanese voice is not that high pitched as you would think. Which is interesting, because in episode 1 of the dub, on the Zexal dub, I can say Zexal because that's the dub, you hear Yuma's voice is not that high pitched, and then as the show goes on, it gets higher. It reminds me of how in the Arc 5 dub that Yuto started off kind of low but not super deep, and then throughout the show you just got this as it went on. That could be the voice direction, that could be actors changing voices. It really just depends. But yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about the dub. I think it's fine if you watch Zale in the dub only and you just don't like watching sub Yu-Gi-Oh, that's fine. I think it's still, good for a dub product. But of course, you're missing a lot of context, and I recommend you watch the original, or at least read the wiki to see what the differences are at the very least, especially when it comes to the backstories of all the Barians, because let's just say a lot of them got censored really, really bad.
Yeah. JC, you never watched the dub, right?
No, I never watched. I did watch clips here and there, but okay. I never decided to sit down and watch it. I mean, there was, like I said, there was no point for me. I'm watching the subbed. It's incredible. Why would I? Yep. It was hard for me to like get invested in any dubs after GX. Any dubs after GX. And then once again, once I see like what they do with it. In all respects to the voice actors, like, I know they do their best and this and that. It just doesn't hit for me. It just doesn't do the same. And then the script that they choose to do, sometimes they're overly goofy. They did the same thing with DM, but it didn't bother me as a kid, and I didn't know about the original back then. And I do appreciate the original sub of DM now a lot more than I I feel like the jokes are just better in DM and GX for the dub, Yeah, I just, there was just never really a reason for me to go watch the dub. I respect you guys that do and enjoy it, but in my opinion, like, if you want the top tier quality of Zale, the sub is just the way to go. Even the music, like, that's the worst part, in my opinion, about all the Yu-Gi-Oh series, that they cut out the amazing Japanese music, the original soundtracks. That's like the biggest crime. Not using those songs. Sometimes they have some bangers in the dub for the songs, but it's very few and far in between, in my opinion. It's very generic sounding, but like, That's the biggest crime, is taking out the freaking music, because the music is what sells the show so much, on top of the acting, but like the music especially. But yeah, I just can't fully enjoy the dubbed now that I've watched the sub. It's just not, I just can't do it. I can't go backwards in a way, you know?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. For me, I basically treat every Yu-Gi-Oh! And its dub as its own show, because I'm like, oh, two cakes, right? Like, I could enjoy the same, like, thing twice. But of course, I very much, in almost all cases, prefer the original, especially for Zale. But I also, again, I grew up on the Zale dub, so of course I'm nostalgic for it. And I like, again, a lot of the actors, and I think they do a great job. But again, of course, they're not the script writers. They're not the executives who do the changes. They're not the people... like that's not their job. They're just doing like all the people, even the people making the old music, they were hired to make music for what they wanted. That's what they do. And I think I remember liking Haruto's theme in the dub a lot. It was this nice kind of mystical piano piece. The Japanese track is obviously also really, really good as well. Dylan, do you have much to say about the dub? I don't think you've seen most of it, so but I like to include them in these segments just to kind of acknowledge our audience who has maybe only seen the dub or has seen both. Because I've, again, just acknowledged that part of the fan base. I know there's a lot of people who just can't watch sub media. They physically cannot watch it they don't want to. Also, maybe if they don't want to watch on fan subs, because of course Zale doesn't have an official sub. So, yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that? On Zale's dub?
So I have seen every English dub in full, and that does include Zexal. I've said it before. I actually do think that Zexal, of all the Yu-Gi-Oh! English dubs, is the weakest of the English dubs. I think that the censorship, which is something that you, of course, see in every dub, goes a little bit further in Zexal, especially during what I think is such a great arc in that Barry and Onslaught arc. I think a lot of the backstories are changed. A lot of the death sequences are... I remember one of the biggest ones was the Shark and 4-1 at the very start of that arc, where they remove like all of the conversation from that. And, I just didn't love it. And Yuma's voice, I always found his voice to be a little annoying. And again, it's not the voice actor's fault. I think that is the inflection that was probably instructed by the team over in Japan, honestly, to give him this high-pitched, hyper-energetic voice, because that matched the personality of the character of Yuma, which was this hyper kid. And I think that just, a lot of people found it annoying. And you combine the fact that, like, we're going to have a younger protagonist. We're going to have a protagonist that is bad at dueling, at least at the start. And I think that honestly turned a lot of people off from Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal early on. So, yeah, Zexal, the English dub, I mean, one dub's got to be my least favorite. I think Zexal is the weakest of the English dubs. I know a lot of people that worked on it, and I think the opening theme is actually really good. It's probably my favorite opening theme, but I think the censorship decisions...
Which one?
The
Take
first,
a chance.
Take a chance. Take a chance.
I like both, but Take a Chance is really, really good. Yeah. But nice thoughts, everybody.
But I mean, I don't have too much more to say about that. But so I mean, listen, we'll get into our favorite characters here, and we'll kind of talk about our favorite ones. I really had to think about this for a while, because there are a lot of characters in this show that I really, really like. But I'll start with my number 3, and that's going to be Yuma. Yuma is a character that grew on me quite a bit. It's funny because the first time I watched through Zexal, Yuma probably would have been like in my top 10, but much lower. But Yuma is a protagonist that I have grown to like a lot. I actually love the journey that he went on. I think from a growth perspective, it's one of the biggest growths that any Yu-Gi-Oh! Protagonist has had from a character development perspective, from a really young, inexperienced duelist, maybe a little bit inexperienced with how the world works as well, to being a much more mature character, a skillful duelist by the end of the show, but also like somebody that never lost their way. I look at someone like Judai, by the way, and I love Judai, but I love him for totally different reasons, right? His story is a lot different, where he is also forced to grow given the circumstances around him, but he falls into darkness. I would argue that that never happened with Yuma, and I actually like that differentiating quality with him, that he never lost his way. I think my all-time favorite Yuma moment is when Vector is about to, die and kind of drag Yuma into quote-unquote hell, and Yuma is just like, yeah, let's do it. Like, I'm right there with you, man. That's
Yeah, that moment, Yuma's Japanese seiyuu decided to discuss. So all the seiyuu at the Tokyo Dome event this year got to pick a moment from the shows that they really, really wanted to talk about. That was Yuma's seiyuu's moment that he picked. Was that moment?
Yeah, and I'm not surprised by that, because that to me has always been like the most standout moment of Yuma, because I think it just sums up his character in ways that words sometimes can't. And it was great because Vector, this really evil, twisted character, even for him, that was the moment where he was like, damn, this guy is just unbelievable. And then, he lets go of Yuma's hand. But yeah, Yuma never lost his way, his personality, his, bring it to him spirit. Like, it was so fun to watch, and loved his growth throughout the show. Number 2 for me, the man I just mentioned, Vector, the strongest spin-off villain in all of the franchise, in all 7 shows. I think he is, you remove Marek, he's the greatest villain in the entire franchise. So naturally, if I'm going to instill that sort of praise on him, I also think he's one of the strongest characters in the entire show. He was just such a treat to watch, such a troll, such a wild card where you really didn't know what was going to happen. Oh man, it's and then you learn about his backstory, and obviously Don Thousand heavily influenced a lot of really, if not all, the Barrian backstories, and the Vector one where his mom and his dad, and he has to watch what happens there, and you understand why he's the way that he is. He has a very, I think, sympathetic backstory, and he just went off the deep end, and it's very understandable. But man, sometimes characters that are just straight up maniacal are so fun to watch. Vector was so fun to watch, and I thought he was one of the strongest characters in Zexal. The strongest character in Zexal, my favorite character, I think the best character, is Kaito. I loved Kaito. I think he's one of the greatest rivals in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! And man, just whether it was Yuma, whether it was Misael, whether it was, whoever, he was such a joy to watch, such a dueling legend. His deck was so fun. He would do anything for his younger brother, which I think is a trait that we've seen many times throughout Yu-Gi-Oh! But there was something about Kaito specifically that I actually thought it was probably the best executed kind of brother trope that we've seen in Zexal. And yeah, I'm not going to go too much on gushing about him, but that's my top 3. Kite, Vector, Yuma. Very excited to hear your guys's. Rarity, would love to know yours, and then, we'll save JC for last.
Oh, this is going to be interesting. I feel like I have some interesting takes. A lot of this, again, is just personal preference, not, objective. I say that always of my favorite characters, because even if a character, isn't in, my top, I can say, oh, this is an objectively a good character. So for me, I'm going to go off with my favorite member of the Arclight family. So my favorite number 3 is 5. I know that is probably very, very shocking. As of all the Arclights, I think he is the least popular. But there was something about 5 that I don't know always grabbed me. Number 1, if you guys know me, I love long hair designs in Yu-Gi-Oh! There is not a lot of long-haired guys in Yu-Gi-Oh! And 5 is one of them. So from a visual standpoint, absolutely love him. He is That's so fair. Pretty. But not just about how he looks. We're not talking about character design. We're talking about character. I really like, of course, being the eldest of the Arclights. He has a lot of that responsibility on his shoulders. Very similar mirroring, of course, to Kaito, in that he is very aware of how messed up his father became, right? And you see that his basically mentoring of Kaito when they were younger, when they were in that situation, and then he having to leave Kaito's side to go be with his father. His dedication to his father, despite everything, takes a really, really strong person and a strong love trying to keep this family together. I think it's really, really powerful and profound. I also liked how they utilized him in the second season as well, with his scientific knowledge and even what we see in the ending as well. I just always really liked him. His deck, not so much. Dyson Sphere is a cool idea for like a huge monster that like covers like the sun, right? I thought that was really, really neat. But I just really liked him. I like his energy. I just really, really liked 5. You could probably put any of the other characters here. Objectively, are probably better characters than him, but I've always really liked him for some reason. Number 2 is Astral. We haven't really talked much about Astral in this video at all, which is really weird.
Yeah.
I love Astral. So Astral to me is really, really unique, as he's basically, when he starts off the show, right? We talked about, you mentioned, Dylan, about Yuma's character development. What about Astral? Astral in the first part of the show is like this, he's like a robot. He's very analytical. He analyzes everything very literally. And he has little observations, right, throughout the show as he's learning. And you see him grow from, as we know, he was basically a weapon sent by Astral World to, defeat Barry and World, gather numbers, all that stuff, right? And then Yuma's father had some hand in making sure that he went to Yuma and was kind of like reprogrammed, right? And you see that he learns from Yuma how to be a human, how to live. And I will never forget the moment when they're in Zale form versus, I believe, Tron. And Astral gets to taste food for the first time, right? Because Yuma eats the dual fuel, right? So he can eat. And it's such a nice little moment of humanizing him. And then when he, basically kind of in a sense gives himself up for, at the end, for Yuma when he dies, right? And then obviously Yuma gets that back. I just really, really loved his development. And I like that he had a spirit companion who didn't always take over the body. Of course, he's kind of the Atem stand-in, right? But he was very analytical and he helped mentor Yuma kind of in dueling and his strategy, but also how he evolved throughout the show. I think Astral just a great character. Plus, I loved a lot of his dry humor. I thought he was very funny during a lot of those fun moments. I also liked it when more characters could start seeing him. And his reaction even to Kaito, his fear of Kaito, which I'm going to get into probably during the duel segment, a little spoiler there, was so surreal. This analytical character who was so confident in his skill faced with a real challenge, and he gets terrified. It's like he's experiencing those human emotions for the first time. Really profound. And then number 1, which is probably not a shock, and I agree with Dylan, is Kaito. I love this man. This is like the guy in Zale I fangirl over. I love this guy. I love him. I love Galaxy Eyes. Amazing deck. Of course, I love the older brother figures in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Kaito's... What's really, really sweet is he is willing to basically descend himself into hell, right? And the only reason he dueled at the beginning, right, was for his brother. He didn't enjoy dueling. He only did it as a means to an end, which is very unique compared to, I think, a lot of our other rival characters. Maybe not all of them. You could say maybe Revolver, maybe a little bit for Yugioh. And I really like that you see him grow to love dueling. Remember, he only dueled Yuma in the final part of the first season because Yuma asked that of him as his wish for winning the tournament. He didn't really want to do it. Because he had no reason really to duel, and he didn't put his heart into it. And then he learned to take pride in being a duelist and being the Galaxy Eyes master. That development of someone who only dueled and brought misery to others to someone who grew to bonds and actually get to have some friends. The storytelling is mostly powerful. He has raw aura. He's a really cool guy. I just think Kaito is peak, and I am so happy out of any character to bring back for Arc 5, they picked Kaito. They picked arguably the best one. I don't think another character would have fit that role that they did as much. And we'll talk about Arc 5 Kaito during the Arc 5 video, because I have things to say about him too. But yes, Kaito is my number 1. I guess you could also slide Haruto, and there's a +1, because I really like the Tenjo bros. I think they're really, really sweet. And it's kind of nice that he kind of made up with his crappy dad. We don't usually see that for rivals who have daddy issues. So it's kind of nice. Kind of a change of pace. But yeah, Kaito's my number 1. JC, I'm curious if you have any of the characters that me and Dylan have. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, of course. Definitely number 5 is number 3 was very interesting. But that's cool. I was surprised Yuma didn't make it on yours. That's very interesting. But so anyway,
I
for
like
me,
Yuma. He'd probably be in my top 5.
Okay, fair enough. He better be. I mean, he's the whole. Anyway, he's the glue. That puts it all together. Anyway, so we're gonna get into my top 3. So, Yeah, so for me, my number 3 would be Vector. Vector, greatest villain in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! For me, he's my favorite villain, actually, in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I love him a lot. I love just all the games he was playing, the trickery. He fooled me with the whole Ray, that he was Ray the whole time and all that. Like, he fooled me. He did a really good job. It was such a shocking moment, and he was just such a troll of the whole show, constantly betraying him, and he was just an incredible, fantastic villain, petty as well, and he was on nobody's side. He was just doing his own thing the whole time. He didn't care who he hurt or anything like that. He was just he's a true villain in his own right, and I just love him a lot. He's great. He's super funny, super goofy, evil. You can't trust him one bit. Nobody can trust him, and yeah, so he's just a great villain altogether. And then number 2 would be I'll put Shark there. Shark is like I said, he's just an incredible character from beginning to end. I love his whole story. I love how they wrapped it all up together. He had 3 different lives. His human life in the past, when he was a king, and then being reincarnated as a Barian, and then getting reincarnated again as a human, and then also rediscovering his Barian past and all that. Just all that. It was just the mind, screwing with your mind. Just like, this dude just can't catch a break, man. And, he finally finds Yuma and friendship, and is finally at peace. And then he finds out about his Barian past and his history, and he has to throw all of it away. Everything that he's ever had away in that episode where he was just looking, he was in the Barian world looking out into the sky or whatever, into the ocean, whatever it was, and he was just like breaking down in tears because he everything that all the bonds and friendships and memories that he formed, he has to destroy all of it and throw it all away so that he could go and protect the Barian world and all the lost soldiers from his kingdom and everything. Like, he has to throw everything away, his humanity and all his love. Like, it was such a heartbreaking scene, like that moment there where he has to break it all apart. And then after that, when he dueled not just Yuma, but he dueled 4 and everything, and he just has to completely get rid of his humanity in order to do this task that he doesn't want to do, but he has to do at the same time. Like, he's a very tragic kind of villain. He's not evil by any means. He has to do what he has to do. That's his duty, to protect the Barian world. He would die. The Barians would die. All his past soldiers would die. Like, he was forced. He literally had no choice but to do it. But it was just so sad. I just love him as a character. I think he's the best, most well-written rival, in my opinion, in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Period. And I know he doesn't get a lot of respect because Kaito gets all the love, which is fine. He's the cool guy, whatever. Shark deserves it so much more. He has the better story. He has the more heartbreaking story. Obviously, Kaito, after season 1, after the first arc, didn't really have much of a purpose as much after that. He was still a cool character, but Shark from beginning to end was just a roller coaster of emotions, and it was really sad. And I didn't love him in the beginning, but as the show kept going on, I just loved him more and more. And he's just an incredible rival, and obviously him and the relationship between him and Yuma are just beautiful. And then obviously number 1 is Yuma. Yuma's the main character. I love him so much. I love his heart. I love everything about him. Vector really challenged Yuma's heart, right? Yuma got angry. He got at one point he didn't even care about Vector and this, he really tested Yuma's love and patience for him. But at the end, as Dylan said, the most memorable scene of all of Yuma, period. He has so many amazing speeches throughout the show. He's just an incredible protag. But that moment, that genuine moment where Vector, again trying to trick him again, says, "I'm going to take you down with me to hell. We're going down together." And he just has him in his hand, and he's just genuinely crying, like both sad because, because he's being betrayed again, but like he knew like it was gonna happen, but like also just sad because of how much he still loves him, even though Vector doesn't want anything to do with him, and he still sees him as a friend despite everything Vector has done. He still desperately cares about him and says, okay, if you want to go down with me, I'll go with you. Like, I won't let you die alone. Like, I'll go with you just so you don't have to be alone. Like, that's just beautiful. That was genuine. He was crying. The tear hit Vector's eye drop. The teardrop hit his face, and that's what changed. That's what changed Vector at the very end. He's like, I can't even take him. His soul is too pure, too loving. I couldn't do it. Like, he just let go. He's like, all right, you don't deserve to die. Like, I'm a piece of garbage. I'm gonna go. Like, it was just so beautiful. It was the most impactful scene in probably all of Yu-Gi-Oh for me. Just that, and that's what solidified him as my main. He was already probably my favorite main character, but like that put him on top for me was just that scene. It was so powerful. It was so beautiful. And for people who don't know, I am a Christian. I am a man of faith, and those, love, friendship, being there with someone, forgiving them of all their sins, and just showing them love that doesn't make any sense, love despite all the horrible stuff you've done, like that really resonates with me on a deep level. So Yuma really hits that aspect for me, even more than I love Judai, but Yuma's so much more of a deeper character and what he fights for, and it's so much more meaningful. And he got to show that with all the characters, because it wasn't just Vector. It was Shark, it was, the Numbers Club even, it was all the Arc-like brothers, it was Tron. He literally changed the heart of everyone in that show. And it was beautiful. And that's why he's like the best main character. He's just incredible. A super kind-hearted soul, a fun-loving soul, and he's the type of friend that's going to be there for you until the very end, even if you keep pushing him away, just like Shark pushed him away in season 1 all the time, told him to leave him alone. He just kept going and showing him, no, I'm going to be your friend, I'm going to be there for you, I don't want you to be alone, I'm going to take care of you. And that's what he does for everyone, and I love that, and that's why I love Yuma so much. And then obviously I love Astral too, but like the change from Astral came from Yuma. So like Yuma is the effect of all the characters. So yeah, I love Yuma the most.
Oh, that was
Love it.
beautiful.
Yeah,
I think the Vector Yuma scene, basically what you love about that is what I love about the flower field scene with Yugioh and Zuijo, which we will get to that whole analysis about that when we get to Go Rush. That's what I love about that. But really, really nice picks, everybody. I like that almost pretty much all the main 4 got represented somewhere. Then there's me who just likes 5. But yeah, Duels, I guess. I guess we'll do Duels. I guess I will volunteer as tribute to go first, I suppose. Cool. My picks are really, really biased. So that's usually what I pick about Duels. So for me, if I have to put a duel on my list, it has to be really with card imagery. If you guys know, I love symbolism in cards. I love big emotional moments. And I really like duels that are fun to rewatch or very unique. So I think my picks are pretty unique. My number 3, which I don't think you guys maybe would have thought of, is Yuma and Kaito versus 3 and 4. Now, there's definitely more objectively better duels in this one. But what I really like about this is it's, number 1, really unique for Yuma, right? Because 4 wrecked his friends previously. He did that whole fan service thing in front of them, right? So Yuma has that kind of vengeance, kind of wants to get back at him for that kind of thing, while 3 is just kind of there observing Yuma, which leads to his interest in Yuma later. And then you have Kaito, of course, wanting to get back his brother, and you see, like, of course, the tension in the background of, Haruto going through this ritual of Tron and 5 in the background, and they're in this, like, space field, like the field spell. It's really, really cool to see Kaito, like, Yuma want to reach out to Kaito, like, hey, we gotta work together, right? We gotta work together, and Kaito's just like, no. It's the classic protagonist rival team up, which I've always loved. And then the emotional storytelling of weaving in Haruto and Kaito's backstory in that duel, which I loved with the sugar cube thing. Really, really sweet. And then Haruto giving up basically all his power to Kaito to create the Neo Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon, and he gets that red glowy power. It's so powerful, like, just the brotherly bond. I think that's, again, my bias as to why I like this duel. Plus, I just think it's really unique. We don't see a lot of tag duels often in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I think whenever a good one happens for a good story reason, especially when characters I remember even the Shark and the shark and Yuma one in the first arc too. There was that one as well. So I really like that one. Number 2 for me is the arc 1 finale, which is Kaito versus Astral and Yuma? Question mark? I don't know if you count that. I really like this duel is you see Astral going on the defensive at first. We don't see a Yu-Gi-Oh protagonist usually play defensive. It's also just really contrast how Astral uses Yuma's cards in a different way than Yuma would, and even him getting overly scared about back row when it was nothing he should have been concerned about, when Yuma, right, would have just went forward and attacked instead of being defensive. And it kind of shows that Astral and Yuma are best as a team, and you see that fear that Kaito instills in Astral. Plus, this duel's in the key. Like, the imagery and they're just in the key is sick, like how they get in there. And then Yuma's, of course, he fights Orbital 7 in the background. He learns about Haruto from the picture. And then, of course, there's the big moment with the Zale Super Saiyan transformation, where they literally overlay themselves together. That is insane. It is so cool. And I love that Duel Links has skills for the Zexal morphs. So cool. Love that. Amazing. And I just really, really like that duel. Again, is this objectively good as some of the later duels? Probably not. But for me, I remember that was the moment I was like, oh my gosh, what is this show? It just struck a chord with me personally. And then number 1, which is probably maybe on your list somewhere, that's probably the more like common one, is Yuma versus Astro, which is the ceremonial duel. I don't think I've had a ceremonial duel as the number 1 before in our rankings for the duels that we've done these for, but I love this duel. It's, again, very similar to the Yugi and Atem one, where you have Astral, right, having all of the numbers, all of the Utopia form, just spam them left and right, going ham, showing why. It's, again, like how Yugi beat the Egyptian gods. But I think Yuma being able to use Utopia roots in his own basically evolved throughout that duel as well. And that duel has a lot of emotional stakes. Not only is it a goodbye for Astral, but it's literally whether the Baryons, right, should come back to life, right? Like, that's kind of what's on the line here. And none of Yuma's friends know about that, right? They're all just thinking this is a fun duel with Astral, right? And then there's basically the fate of the whole universe is basically what's at stake. It's really, really crazy and powerful that and Yuma has to still, enjoy himself, and he still does. I think that really showcases Yuma's character really well. That even in this intense situation, he still manages to, Katubinga! Or high five this guy, right? Have a good time dueling his closest friend and, trying to say goodbye, but also fighting for the lives of all the Baryons. Even someone like you were saying, the scum of the earth, Vector, right? Fighting for him to have a chance to be reborn, right? And also Baryon World and, all that stuff. But just so powerful. And I think the way that Yuma actually wins, I think, is really, really nice with using I believe it's the double up chance, the one he always uses, the slot machine card, I believe he uses to win. Yeah. So, yeah, I believe so, from what I remember. But I just really, really like that duel a lot. So that's for me. Again, a lot of personal picks. Again, I don't rate Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels, how objective they are. But if you wanted to put, I'm sure one of you has Yuma and Nash on here, which I fully respect that. I'd probably put that at number 4 for me. That's also a really good one. I suspect one of you has it, if not both of you. So I'm curious to see what you guys have.
Yeah, absolutely. JC, would you like to go next, my friend?
Sure, yes. Number 3 would be... There's so many duels, man. It's so many amazing duels. Just for this,
it's tough.
I guess number 3 for now. Well, I'll put I guess Nosh versus Vector, maybe. Yeah, not Nosh versus Vector. I'll put that up there. It's just really cool. It's kind of interesting because we're expecting Yuma to face Vector again, but we get to see a villain versus villain. We got to see a lot of villain versus villain because Vector's such a douche, man. He's not loyal to anyone. But so yeah, we get to see Nosh facing off against Vector, and then that back and forth and the history between them, that was really good. The duel was really great, and yeah, it was incredible. And then number 2 would be I kind of go back and forth. It's kind of hard to decide. I'm going to put Yuma versus Astral, the ceremonial duel, as second place. And like I said, it goes back and forth between number 1. with it. But yeah, I love that duel. Incredible ceremonial duel. It just got me. It got me so emotional. It ended off the show for me in such a beautiful way. Yuma resurrecting everybody. The duel between Yuma and Astral, just they're best friends, and they have to decide the fate of everything, in this duel, and it's just beautiful. It was obviously a remake of Yugi versus Atem, which was also an incredible duel on its own. I just love that, and I love their relationship between Yuma and Astro, and it kind of showed that on display. And the duel was really good, and I love Future Hope and what it represents, and great way to finish off all of Zale, just a really perfect way. And then obviously number one would be Yuma versus Nash. It has to be, because once again, I've already discussed the relationship between Shark and Yuma from beginning to end, how it's all tied up together, and how tragic that story is, and how much Shark cares so much about Yuma and has to be put in this position where he has to basically kill the person that he loves the most, whether that's his sister or Yuma, whatever, the person that he cared about the most, and the person that in a way saved his life and his soul, right, and who cared about him when no one else did, right? Like, he has to defeat that person, and in a life or death duel that decides the future of both of their worlds. And it's just it's such an incredible duel. It's perfect. It's a perfect duel. I just love it. I could ramble on about it, but it's already been long enough. Dylan, why don't you go?
Yeah, all right. I will go real quick. Man, as you said, both of you guys, I mean, there's a lot of really, really good duels. Number 3 for me, and I was kind of going back and forth between the Yuma Shark Dawn 1000 duel, because there's always been something about the ridiculous nature of that duel that I have absolutely loved, with obviously Numeronia reaching the heights that it did. But I'm going to go a bit of a dark horse here. I'm going to go Vector versus Mirage and Derbe. It was a duel I really, really loved, and I feel like this was like peak Vector troll, while at the same time us realizing as the audience the legitimateness of his threatening aura. And what I mean by that is, of course, when he revealed himself to be Vector at Sargosa, it was a lot of emotions. But this is like the first time where we really see him have a straight up duel against some of his other, Barian brothers and sisters, if you will. And he completely trolls them, dominates them, defeats both of them at the same time, which again shows how lethal of a duelist he was, forces Shark to watch the whole thing and watch the death of one of his good friends and his sister. Dude, it was a crazy, crazy duel. So yeah, I love that one a lot. I'm going to go number 3 on that. And then number 2, I'm kind of surprised no one mentioned it. The Moon duel between Kaito and Misael. The Moon duel. Stay away from the moon, Kite. Yeah, it was that one. Obviously you can speak about the end of it and how it has one of the saddest death scenes in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I think the only death scene that I actually think is sadder is Antinomies in the Neo-Arc Cradle, and that's because of the finality of that scene when you rewatch it back, knowing that, Antinomy, Bruno, does not come back. That's genuinely the end of them. But this scene is brutally, brutally sad, especially because Kaito wins. It's one of the rare times in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where a character wins and still dies. Like, that does not happen a lot. It's happened before. It happened in Go Rush, but it does not happen a lot. And yeah, the action between, who's the king of the galaxy eyes, it was just so good. That duel is so, so good. And then the greatest, and by the way, JC already mentioned it, is going to be Yuma and Nash, the not ceremonial duel, but the final matchup between the two of them. Yuma calling off his attack after hitting double up chance. and the glory of the Seven Emperors causing Shark's life points to be 0 because Yuma called off his attack. Again, we talk about how the Yuma and Vector scene was such a great way to summarize Yuma's character. Well, so was this. That Yuma felt like there had to be a better way. He didn't want to defeat Shark, so he ended his attack, which of course leads to the defeat of Shark. It's just unbelievable. That duel is so good. And I think it's the greatest duel in Zexal. One of the greatest in the franchise. But yeah, that's my top 3. But man, great duels there, everyone. I mean, we have definitely really done a deep dive here into Zexal, and we're about 90 minutes in. So anybody that's still watching, thank you. Just to touch on one thing really quickly, because it was the last talking point that we had, which was about Zexal getting a lot of unnecessary hate and bashing. I mean, I'll start with this, and then I'll pass it to Rarity, and then JC, you can give your thoughts. And I'm not going to talk too much about this. I've talked about this many times. I think this is something that has definitely gotten better as people have actually watched Yu-Gi-Oh Zexal. I'll never forget, I was at a Yu-Gi-Oh art exhibit, and this was back in 2019, and someone recognized me. They came up to me, and they started talking to me about Zexal, and they said, yeah, you know what, I just finished Zexal, and I hated Zexal for the longest time, but never actually watched it, and now Zexal's my favorite show. And I was like, oh, that's great that you gave it a chance. And after that conversation ended, I thought about it a lot, and I'm like, there's probably a lot of people online that talk about how Zexal sucks that never actually watched the original version of Zexal. They watched 5 or 10 episodes of the English dub. They heard Yuma. They got annoyed by his voice, and that was it. They called it a day. They formed their opinion, and that was that. However, I think as more people have actually given Zexal a chance, they have a mostly favorable opinion on Yu-Gi-Oh Zexal. And sadly, I think a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh anime hate train has been moved to Sevens and Go Rush at this point. So I think when people talk about Yu-Gi-Oh anime in a negative way, it's usually targeted at those 2 shows. It's usually targeted at Rush Show. So Zexal has kind of gotten, a new lease on life. It's no longer almost the black sheep of the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise because of the Rush shows, which is sad when it comes to the Rush shows. But from the perspective and PR of Zexal, I think a lot of people's opinions on Zexal has changed. But I think a lot of the hate it got was because of the dub. It was from people not actually watching it. And it was because it was a stark change to the first 3 shows. Young protagonist, colorful show, and people form their own opinions unfairly because of that. But that's my thoughts on it. Rarity, what are your thoughts when it comes to this?
I think pretty much you hit the nail on the head. I think this is also something that, people, it kind of, as time goes on, right, properties become nostalgic. I've seen some people, for example, talk about 5Ds and GX. They were never bashed. Yes, they were back in the day. Every single Yu-Gi-Oh! That was the new thing got bashed. That's just kind of how the pattern goes.
100%.
And now Zale is, in that nostalgic category. One day, Arc 5 will get to be, Arc 5 was good, actually, category, right? That'll happen. And same thing with Vrains, Go Rush, Sevens, all that stuff. It just kind of how the train goes for anything, as people actually checking the shows out instead of not doing that. I don't see how you can hate a show that you've never seen. If you've never seen it, you could say a show you started and wasn't for you, but I can't say you hate it's your least favorite when you haven't, finished it all the way. I just don't think your opinion is as valid. If you watched all of Zale, for me, Zale is not in my top shows. I made that very clear today, but I still very much enjoyed myself watching it. Again, I don't think it was a bad Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's kind of crazy. I'm happy for the Zale fans who fought off so much hate for so many years are kind of getting the levity off of them. I just wish that, that wasn't going towards the Rush shows, which if you guys know, I'm kind of become a Rush girly, right? I love Rush, especially Go Rush. So, and I really love Sevens. So I think it's just kind of sad. It's kind of shifted to that, especially when people use Sensei's name in, disgrace, which people do that a lot, with trying to make their opinion sound better. But, it's really, really awful, especially considering Sensei's no longer with us, and all of that. But yeah, it's a lot of unnecessary stuff. Again, if there are things if you didn't like the first part of Zale, or if you're like me where you preferred Zale 1 over Zale 2, or maybe it didn't resonate with you as emotionally strong like me, that's perfectly fine. I just think that, if you hate something for the English dub that is a very much a censored version, I just don't think that's like the necessary to say the entire show is bad. You can say the English dub is bad and you don't like it, but what about the original story and whatnot? But that's just me. I'm glad that it's slowly going away, but it's kind of just makes me sad it was ever a problem to begin with, and it's something that's been happening in the fandom in general, which hopefully over time we can all appreciate every single Yu-Gi-Oh all together one day. That's my dream. We all go hand in hand and say all Yu-Gi-Ohs are good Yu-Gi-Ohs. Long live Yu-Gi-Oh together as a whole fandom. I know that's like a big dream, but I'd love to have that one day.
Yeah, maybe.
One day, maybe something we're going to talk about during the promotion bit maybe will help with that. We'll talk about that later. JC, what about you real quick?
Zale doesn't deserve what it gets. I think anyone who, or most people who watch Zale all the way through, see that there's just so much to offer in this show. It's just way too much, especially if you're watching the subbed. Especially, I'm just gonna stand on that boat. Okay, the sub is just better, the original. But yeah, I think if you are gonna give it a shot, and it's hard to find it sub. That's the hardest part. That's the biggest crime, is that we can't really watch it sub somewhere. We gotta go into find it somewhere in the web, and it's very hard to watch it in its original state. But Zale doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. People would probably love it if they just gave it a real genuine chance and watched it all the way through. And it's just an incredible show altogether. And it's kind of like what Rarity said. Even though like it's not her favorite show, she acknowledges that objectively it is one of the greatest, if not possibly the greatest written Yu-Gi-Oh show. And I stand by that. I think it's the best written show, and it has an emotional attachment towards me personally. So obviously, as you can tell by this conversation, so I think Zale's incredible. It doesn't deserve what it gets, and I think people would really love it if they really just gave it a chance. Just give it a chance, and I think you would see something special. Even if it didn't end up being your personal favorite, I think you could acknowledge like, oh wow, that was really good. So I'll end it on that.
Yeah, Kato Bingo, right? Kato Bingo. Take a chance. Kato Bingo.
Kato Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
There you go.
There we go.
We did it.
Well, listen, what a great Zexal themed podcast. I'm sure for those that really, really love Zexal, this will be a fun listen to. So, ladies and gentlemen, obviously we could talk about this anime as we could for all the anime for even longer, but in the interest of time, we're gonna probably wrap things up here. I'm gonna have all of the socials of these two linked down below. I highly encourage that you follow them, and please leave all of your thoughts on Yu-Gi-Oh Zexal down below. JC, you're the guest. We're going to start with you. Anything you want to promote, and then Rarity, if you want to go over anything going on in your world, that would be awesome.
Sure. Did you guys know I'm Legendary Duels? You guys can go to my channel at Legendary Duels. I don't post. I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to creating content. I have 3 different channels that I'm kind of juggling and kind of just doing what I feel like doing whenever I do it. So I do deck profiles, and eventually we'll get back to doing live character duels on my main channel. And then on my second channel is where I kind of have more fun and kind of do my own fun stuff. I play Duel Links, I play Master Duel, I create custom cards and stuff like that, custom characters and stories, and reveal that stuff there. So that's kind of where I go more freestyle and do my own stuff. And then my third channel is my Pokemon channel, which is called Ice Master Glacian, where I play TCG Pocket and just do whatever other Pokemon related stuff I feel like talking about or doing. So yeah, those are my 3 channels. That's what I've been doing, and I'm kind of hopping in between the 3 of them here and there, so there's not a lot of consistency between all 3 because I'm juggling all of it by myself, and it's a challenge, to say the least, on top of everything else I got to do in my personal life. But I'm trying my best. It is what it is. I got to accept it where it is, but I'm having fun doing what I'm doing, and hopefully I can keep doing it as long as I possibly can. We'll see. But subscribe, guys. Check me out.
Awesome, JC. As for me, you guys have probably known that I've been basically streaming. I stream at least twice a week, usually on Mondays and Saturday or Sunday, depending on things. We do a lot of Rush Duel related stuff, like Duel Links, though I kind of want to try, maybe try to get back to the Master Duel, maybe try Speed Duel a little bit, with maybe the meta die down a little bit. But we usually host Go Rush English dub watch-alongs. I've been doing those. We're kind of in a pause right now due to let's just say some corporate greed battles between two big companies that have prevented access to episodes. So we're kind of in a halt right now, but if you don't want anything related to Rush Duel or just have some fun fangirl time, I also host like trivia. I've done a lot of birthday stuff. Like I'm going to do a Yugioh birthday stream for December. That's going to be awesome. It's going to be a really, really fun stream and other things like that. But kind of more the personal thing I want to talk about, it's probably the first time I think on an official video this has been talked about, is KaibaCorp Con. So KaibaCorp Con is a virtual all-series Yu-Gi-Oh fan event that I am an admin of, and Dylan is one of our chairs for, that is going to be held next year virtually. Really big event. It's going to be basically a virtual version of a real life con with guest panels, TCG tournaments, basically a way to bring the community together. We're kind of in a pre-launch right now. Our official social media launch and interest checks will be out sometime next year. The website may be out by the time this video goes up. I think it may. If it is, Dylan, you can link that down below, but I'd love you to link the KaibaCorp Con Socials. We'll talk more about it as more information gets revealed, but I'm super, super excited for it. It's a way to bring everyone who loves Yu-Gi-Oh, whether you are a fan of the anime, the manga, the video games, the card game, all of us that come together to celebrate the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise that we love in a virtual capacity, because again, our fandom is so spread out. So I'm really, really honored to get to work with so many amazing people who have been on this channel before. Really big names like Maiden Days, Zenvita, Hikari, a lot of really big people in the community, and more people to come that are getting to be a part of this as well. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about KaibaCorp Con a little bit, and we're very honored to have you, Dylan, as our guest relations chair. Very, very appreciated to have you as a part of that. So we'll probably talk more about that in the coming months. So stay tuned for more about KaibaCorp Con. And yeah, so next month is going to be the Zexal manga, which I actually kind of like more than the anime. And that's a very unpopular opinion. So we'll get to talk about that to end off the year of appreciating Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm very, very happy. And thank you so much, JC, for coming on for this video. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on again, to just go crazy over Zexal. So, you know, I don't know if there were any other crazier Zexal fans than me. Maybe, I'm not sure, but I'm glad you guys brought me back on.
I don't know, man. Yeah, no, we're happy you came on. Seriously, it was a blast, as it always is, and you know, the Yu-Gi-Oh Zexal appreciating, you know, fanboy fangirl video now you are a part of, which is awesome, and
let's go.
Very excited and honored to be part of that KC Con as well. A lot of amazing people on that team, and you know, we'll reveal more of that on the channel as well when it's appropriate. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave all your comments and thoughts on the Zexal anime down below. If you made it to the end, you are a real trooper and a real fan of this podcast and my channel, which I am very, very grateful for. Huge thank you to the co-host Rarity and the special guest Legendary Duels as well. Thank you all so much for watching. This concludes episode 14 of the Appreciating Yu-Gi-Oh podcast. Thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you in the comments, and I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, guys.